Hello, everybody. Hello. Wow. I'm impressed. I'm happy. So thank you for coming. I am Cindy Bates. I'm sure some of you have seen my postings online and comments that have been made. And I just want to thank you, like I said, first of all, for being here today and taking the time out of your days. We've got people on Zoom. Unfortunately, there's no internet access here today, so I'm doing the best that I can to try and keep them happy and keep all of you happy at the same time. A few housekeeping rules. When we get to the end of the presentation and start having an open discussion, please, I'm gonna have to mute everybody over there. Sorry, hold on. Hey guys on Zoom, please mute yourself. Thank you. There. So when we get ready for the discussion part, all I'm asking is everybody to be respectful of each other. We all know that there are a lot of thoughts, ideas, opinions, etc. on the assessment, the golf courses, the community as a whole. We all have something in this, okay? We are not here to tell anybody how to vote. That is not the purpose of this meeting. And more importantly, we are not anti-golf. I used to love to golf. I don't golf anymore, but I used to. We're just trying to figure out what makes the most economical sense for this community moving forward. We cannot fix what was done in the past. The past is the past. Some of us attended a meeting last night for another village, and present was Randy and the new unelected, I'll say, HOA representative Jeff. He was appointed for one of the vacant positions that was left by two of the elected people from last year. It was an interesting discussion. It was a well-attended meeting that lasted for about an hour. But there was a gentleman at the end that I really appreciated his input and his comments that he made back to both Randy and to Jeff. And he was a very good speaker, and his points were very well made. But at the end of the day, and I've said this for anybody that follows Nextdoor, and I have said this on there, hope is not a strategy. Anybody that's been in business, I don't care whether you're for yourself or a company that you work for. I had a boss as of last year that's no longer my boss, but we had a Friday morning meeting, every Friday morning, and we would come in the meeting, and I'm in the technological world, and anyway, he would say, like, what's going on? We'd say, well, we hope that we sign this deal, or we hope that we get this, or we hope we get our development done. And he would always say, hope is not a strategy. You have to have a plan. You have to have goals. You have to have somebody being held accountable for every action along the way. And I didn't hear that last night. And there are others in this room that were there last night, and I welcome them to, stand up and, and let me know if they, or let us all know, what it is they heard and what was said. Let's see. I've got some notes here. Sorry, guys. One of the things that I know is on everybody's mind is the assessment if it does pass, and what's going to happen. I think today, for those of you, there was an email that went out this morning. It was very thorough and explained what the voting process is going to be. and the monies that are due, when they're due, how they are due, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was very well written and well received. Those questions had been being asked by a lot of people on Nextdoor as well, and on the Plantation Facebook page. So the comments last night, though, were, what do we do about the people in here that, I've heard 10%, I heard 20, so we'll say between 10 and 20% of the people in here that are not able to afford this next assessment, whether it's the one due at the end of September or the one due at the end of March. What do we do? How do we help those people out? And is there anything we can do to help those people out? Unfortunately, the reaction, or I guess in this case the non-reaction, says a lot. And I know that there were people at the last HOA meeting or the LLC meeting a few weeks ago, back at the 1st of July, around the 1st of July, that got up and spoke and said, how are they supposed to make their decisions, that month? How do they decide whether it's medicine or food or electric bills or whatever it may be? This is a hardship for some folks in this community. For others, it is not. I made that very clear when I got up and spoke. It's not about the money that you're asking us for. It is about what are you doing with that money that you're asking us for. I've only been here a year. Next week will be a year that we've lived in this community. When we moved into this community, we were under the impression that this was a very financially sound and stable community to move to.
It was.
Pardon? We like living here. We have a beautiful neighborhood, and everybody in here has just been overly gracious to me especially. Thank you. But we're missing something here still. And I know there are people passionate, like I said earlier, about the golf course and what should we do? Should we throw in the towel? Should we keep on going? For money that's already been spent, why quit now? It's like everything. There's two sides to every coin. There's not a right answer and there's not a wrong answer. I think for everybody, and I'm going to steal from one of my committee members here, that all we want is a plan. We want to be able to sit down and have a discussion with everybody that is in charge of making the financial decisions for this community. And what is the plan? How is it going to work? From what I learned last night, and I'm going to steal from my notes here for a minute. From what I learned last night, the total assessment, we're just going to say, is around $650,000. Okay, it's a lot of money. The first chunk of that is about I'm rounding, so it's about $423,000 is the first chunk that's coming out at the end of September. Out of that, they are going to use $325,000 of that to cover the bills that are past due and golf losses so far. $50,000 will be going to the contingency fund, which is a great idea, to cover unexpected expenses. Unexpected things that break down, expensive items that break down. It happens. It's the real world. Then $30,000 would be used to still work on the back nine of Otter Creek. And then another $18,000 would be spent on marketing. In the meeting last night, they did ask if they're going to try and reach out to people in the community and see who can help with the marketing plan, what would be the best course of action. I also heard last night that they're going to reach out to some past groups that used to play here and bring them back and let them see what has been done with the renovations on Otter, but also the improvements on Cranes. I don't know when that's going to happen. We also heard that they're going to invite the PGA to come in and look it over and let them see what has been done and get their opinions and let them know that this course is ready for play. A person in the audience last night did ask for an ETA on when the back nine of Otter would be playable. Hard date was not given, but they did say probably by the middle of October. I hope that's true. That's all I can say on that. I hope it's true.
We're not supposed to use hope.
I know. Well, for them, I hope it's true. Yeah. I don't know how many people have gone around the back 9 of Otter lately. I did the other night, and it was surprising in some areas and disappointing in other areas.
We're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know any better. Sorry.
I go on it every day, I live
Well,
on
that,
it. It's getting better.
just because you don't know doesn't make it right.
Until some neighbor calls up and somebody.
Okay, stop. Okay, that's.
Okay, so whether we should, shouldn't, did, didn't, it doesn't matter at this point. I assume that nobody's playing on a golf course as long as you're not impeding play. It's okay to go out and take a ride on a golf course that we basically own anyway. So, sorry for that. Okay. The second part of the assessment that is due in March is around $212,000. Out of that, wasn't really a whole lot discussed about that. It was going to be mostly used for the contingency bucket and to keep things going and to pay bills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Several people in the audience last night did ask, you know, what happens next? What happens if you don't get the play? What happens if there's not the money coming in? Are you going to hit us with another assessment at this time next year? Hope not. One lady wanted to know if there was any way that the attorneys, and I might have this wrong, and Ed is here as well as a couple of other people that were there last night, so they can correct me on this. But there was a lady that asked, could we get the attorneys involved along with the HOA and have them draw up some sort of, I'll use air quotes here, but guarantee that there would never be another assessment again? No, not happening. Okay. So where does that leave us? That's why we're here. Like I said, when I moved in a year ago, I thought everything was rainbows and sunshine and unicorns and everything, only to find out that it's really not. So we are together today to kind of go through what it is that could happen or what's been happening. I don't think we want to dwell too much on the financial stuff that's happened in the past. I know that there are others that are counting on all of the homes being built coming into this area over the next 2 to 3 years probably to increase the play here at both of our courses. I don't know if that's a realistic expectation or not. Also, something else, this is a big old book that the Villages puts out. And I take the newspaper, and it came with the newspaper a few weeks ago. It's a very, very nice book. So the question always is how many golf courses does the Villages have? In writing from them. They have what is considered, I think, 13 championship courses. They have 41 executive courses. And from what I understand, and some of you are going to know a heck of a lot more than I do, but the executive courses are 9 holes that have multiple pins, multiple flags, so however you want to word that, that they can play. That's a lot of golf courses, but I found that interesting. If you think about it, the majority of the Villages golf courses are 9-hole golf courses.
And how many people live in the village?
145 to 155,000. Oh yeah, thousands. Yeah. Give or take, you got 2,800 homes, assume, yeah.
Out to 5,000 people live here. How many are golfers? I used to be, I'm not anymore. And I've got no problem maintaining a nice golf course. But do we need 2, but one that every time there's a storm or it's underwater? I've lived here for 9 years. Every time there's a major storm, the back 9 of Otter Creek is underwater.
I have
If
heard
the
that.
rain part,
I've,
they're flooded.
yeah.
We don't need 2 golf courses.
Okay, so let's save those for a little bit later. Hold on.
Sir, I wish you were at the meeting last night.
I didn't know that.
Because at the meeting last night, there was a gentleman there that swore Otter flooded once in the last 13
Bullshit.
years. That's what he said.
And we were told that it was shut down one time for up to 3 weeks. That is not what I've heard, but I don't have any proof one way or the other, so I can't sit there and refute a negative or, in that case. But all I can go off of is my neighbors and residents like you.
2004 flooded, 2008 it flooded, 2007.
That's not important. Move on with the meetings.
So the other piece of that is they have 2 other golf courses that are like pitch and putt, putt and play type of courses as well. So a lot of golf courses, that's for sure. This does not include any new ones that they're building out in the newer communities.
Do they have the utilization of those golf courses in there?
They, from what I understand, what did I just say? Basically 43 golf courses, the executive and the other 2 smaller ones, are part of their CDD fees, HOA fees, whatever you want to call it, and they were played for free. They do have to pay.
What's their utilization?
Oh, I don't know that.
Okay, well, that's a new point.
Okay. From what I've heard, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have those stats with me. I'm sorry. Somebody else may know that answer. All I've heard is that it's very hard to get on to the villages during winter time, okay, when everybody is back. It's very hard to find a tee time. Okay. I don't think I have much else to say on this for right now. I'm going to hand it over to Ed for the, pardon? Probably not. Well, we have somebody here recording it as well, so, yeah. So Ed is going to get up and give his presentation, and then after that, we'll, open it up for discussion and other comments from the group as a whole. Hold on.
May I
Yeah.
ask one other question before you start? Sure. Is this being put on by the leadership of the concerned residents of Hell?
Yeah, this is not an HOA or an LLC
This is the
section.
leadership we're seeing.
Well, concerned residents is a very loose cadre of people that have issues with certain
But this
situations.
doesn't sound that way, so I'm just wondering.
So, leadership, it depends on the issue. There's different people that take the lead on different issues. So to say that there is a set leadership,
Never mind.
It's very much an ad hoc.
it's ad hoc, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, anyway, so I talk pretty loudly. I don't know if I'll need a microphone.
You need a microphone.
I need a
I've
microphone.
never been told I've been quiet in my life.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Is this mic working here?
Not yet. I have it turned down, so.
So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. And what we'd like to do, really the intent of this is to put some facts on the table that we can all agree to or all use as reference and try to come to some conclusions as a community, right? This thing is really tearing us apart. And what we need to do, golfers, non-golfers, pickleball players, non-pickleball players, we all have to get together and say, this is our community, we have to save it. And again, as Cindy said, we are not anti-golf. I'm not a golfer, but I understand the passion for the game. And if it makes sense, fine, let's go, let's do it. But I am not one to want to say pay $50 a month to maintain a course that is unable to sustain itself. That's my personal feeling. So our goal really is to find this win-win. Can we come to a conclusion? Can we all agree on a strategy, on a course of action? Our methods, we look at facts. We try to understand the problem. we look at a little history, but we don't look at too much history because, again, everyone can say, well, there was this issue, there was that issue. So what we like to look at is the right here and now and say, can we make this work? Our conclusions so far, where we're going to start this discussion, is we really have three strategies. We have a high-cost, low-revenue strategy, which is really keep both courses open. We have a low-cost, low-revenue strategy, which is focusing on one course, putting all our resources into one course. We have a low-cost, no-revenue strategy, which is no courses. And I don't think anyone here would get out of here alive if they voted for that or adhered to that. So let's understand the problem. What do we have? What is our product, as they say? Our product really is a very high fixed investment product that needs a lot of maintenance. And it takes a lot of cost to maintain. Golf is not a cheap hobby. The courses, our product is a lower tiered product. It's really uncompetitive right now, given the competition. The market is highly competitive, given all the other alternatives we have, and it's a very seasonal market. If you think about it, the market, or our season, is really 3 or 4 months. And when I started to understand this, when I looked into it and started to do research, many people told me, they said, look, if you don't make your money in the first 4 months of the year, you're dead. That was what was told to me. The courses have little to no pricing power to affect demand, right? We're already the value player. We can't really increase demand by going 27 to 25, because people are already, well, if you want to play Plantation, you can play Plantation, but, you know, that's a pretty iffy proposition. So we really have very little pricing. The courses are market followers, not market leaders. I remember the first HOA meeting, the first LLC meeting, and there was a report by a gentleman who was sent out to all the courses to get the green fees. And there was an announcement made that based on all these green fees, we were going to price here. That's the market follower versus the market leader. There is little to no brand loyalty. I know 3 or 4 golfers who unfortunately will not play the Plantation. They have their various issues. Some of them are experiences they had at the pro shop. We won't go into that. Suffice it to say, there's little or no brand loyalty. We believe controlling costs, then, is the only viable course that we have to narrow this very large gap between expense and revenue. We are asked once again to invest in this business, to come out of pocket to pay these people to keep this thing going. And what we are told, again, is that old fallacy, this time it's different. And that's, I think, the real issue here. Every time we ask a question, it's always, oh yeah, this time it's different. This time we'll market. Marketing was said to be the issue back in September of 2021. So what did they do? They put a coupon in the village's newspaper. If you did 18 holes, you got a sandwich and a draft. About 2 weeks later, they took away the sandwich. That was our marketing. And that lasted for about 3 or 4 weeks. A coupon. You got a free draft if you played 18 holes. So what's the dynamic? Really, here is the dynamic. If we go towards 2 courses, a ton more cost, a lot more cost. And if we go back to no courses, less revenue, no revenue. So somewhere in between there, we have to find the sweet spot. We have to find that level of play that we can support. Or if you flip the coin, that level of cost that can be supported by that level of play. And trust me, it's not that difficult. I actually have been impressed with Dick Penny's accounting. Truthfully. Truthfully. He's been on the, I can't say he's been on the money, but he's produced financial statements consistently every month. And so I believe there's data. I believe we can analyze the data and we can come up with that point. And then it's going to be up to us. It's going to be up to us to play it, to support it, just like we're supporting the Oaks, mamas. Just like we're supporting mamas, we got to support golf. If we look at this, we can also understand another very important point of this dynamic. The majority of revenue comes from cranes, and the majority of cost comes from otter. That's what we need to keep in our minds. Closing 18 holes reduces a major source of cost without affecting revenue. Is that a true statement? That's a hypothetical statement, but we think it probably is true. So, given the very high cost, given the issues we have with being uncompetitive, what are the results? Here are the results. And these results are taken from the financial statements that have been prepared by Dick Penny. I went through month by month. If we look at this 4 months, that's the actual audited results. This 264,549 is what the auditors said. If you look at the 12 months, if you look at the 12 months, the financial statements in December said $518,000 loss. Why does it say 719? Because there was a significant math error. And that math error was brought up to management, but of course it hasn't been corrected. If you look at the 6 months, the right column there, the next to the right column, the June statement came out, and that's the number off the June statement. That was the last statement Dick Penny did before he left the board. You add it all up, and we have operating losses of $1,150,000. I know Maynard said 600 and something, and even last night at the meeting, Jeff Albert and Randy Ward said 600 and something. I have no idea where they could have come up with that number. These, I swear to you people, came right out of the financial statements. I have them electronically on my computer. If you'd like to see them afterwards, I'd be happy to show you. So anyway, it's as you would expect. And given these losses, it's no wonder we have a special assessment. One thing I'd like to also point out that I think is a very important point. I talked to you about the season. We have a very seasonal product here. The season really is half of December through maybe half of April. So let's call it 4 months, January through April. Let's call it just for ease of use. So if you look at this, the 6 months, we have a $165,000 loss. That includes the very best months of our season of January, February, and March. That tells you something. That tells you something. Again, the rule of thumb has always been, if you don't make the money in those first couple of months, those good months, you're dead. And but only 9 holes of auto were closed, right? The front nine of auto were open. Front nine of auto's been open since December, I believe. So, and also too, you have to say, you know, what kind of revenue versus cost relation are we looking at there? Well, let's move on, because that's something that I think we'll tackle later. Okay, so we talked about this seasonality. This is really it this is it demonstrated. Here is March revenue, and here is June revenue. Now, I've already made the point that this is a game of cost. That cost is the only viable. But we can reduce this seasonality issue somewhat, the pain of the seasonality, if we are smart with our pricing, or if we reduce some of the errors in the pricing. If we look at member dues, in March, it's almost $36,000. 3 months later, 2 months later, it's $26,000, $10,000 less. 179, right? If you take $200 divide into that, that means 179 and 134. What's that called? Seasonality. That's called snowbirds. Well, it looks like, and if we go to the fall, you'll see that it ramps up too. One of the problems is that this happens with impunity. That members can be members when they're here, and when they go, they cannot be members. They don't have to be members. And then when they come back, they become members again. So we have a 25% drop in just 2 months with member dues. Green fees, if this doesn't demonstrate seasonality, I don't know what. 86% drop in green fees from March to June. So what can we do there? Well, perhaps we can improve our pricing a little bit, or perhaps we can think about the maintenance. Was that caused by maintenance? Was something going on? I seem to recall, I believe it was late May, an email went out that said, hey, we got maintenance going on. If you want to do 18 holes, you'll have to do 9 on cranes and 9 on otter. That doesn't sound very fun to me. You know, I don't know how people took that. But could that be because of that issue? Well, if we look at some of the other numbers, oh, and also too, the policy of one price for unlimited golf probably needs to be discontinued. What did we do? Right now, that if you look at the price for unlimited golf, in 2010 it was $185. 13 years later, it's $200. And at the May meeting, or was it? No, I think it was the March meeting. Maynard said, this was his Hail Mary, I think. What he said is that he was selling forward memberships. And at one point he said they were going forward as much as 3 years. So you could buy golf for $200 a month, 3 years in advance. Do you think that compensates for the cost of running a course? So, you know, those are some of the decisions in terms of pricing that we can correct. Also, too, if there's going to be major maintenance, does it make sense to stay open? So during June, pro shop wages were $26,000. Irrigation wages, whatever those are, we're not too sure what those are, were $5,000 for a total of $32,000. If we look at green fee revenue, it's what? We're paying $32,000 in wages and earning $15,000 in green fees. Come on. I mean, Business 101 says that, revenue starts at the top, and then out of that flows all the expenses, including wages, and when you get to the bottom, it's supposed to be positive. That's Business 101. So, again, another management decision. We got pricing that should be stabilized, which could stabilize our revenue stream so that we can cost better. But also, too, at certain times, maybe we need to understand when we should just close the business. And let the greens rest. Let the grass grow. I'm not saying closing forever, But hey, up at Arlington Ridge, there was times when they closed for weeks on end while they did maintenance. It might make sense. So, changes. Again, we talked about pricing, we talked about costs. So, we need management that understands this. We need to correct the errors in pricing. And this support. If this is a club, then it must be supported by the members. And members shouldn't abuse it by joining when they're here. And, I'm not going to be here, I'm not going to pay. And then, when they come back. Another thing I'd like to demonstrate too, is look at the cart fees. These are ancillary, I understand that. But look how quickly they drop off too. So, I think there needs to be some consistency, some discipline to the pricing. So anyway, if this is a club, it's got to be supported. And but if this is a club, what other activity do we have that is subsidized in an amount of $3.3 million? We've paid off the mortgage. We gave them 1.5 of cash. We assumed the Thompson loan. And we assumed the sprinkler loan, which according to Randy Ward last night, was actually done by John Russell in January of 2022. He made the announcement in March that it's going to be $3,000, but according to Randy Ward, he did it 3 months earlier. And it's not $300,000, it's $386,000. Sprinklers.
Hey, I missed it. What are you saying about this fellow that did this? Could you just repeat?
What
Yeah,
fellow?
that did this sprinkler deal. How did that?
Oh, John Russell.
Yeah.
He was the chairman of the LLC, and he announced at the March 2022 meeting that they were going to buy sprinklers for Otter Creek. And that they were going to take out a loan to pay for them, and the loan was going to be $300,000. But don't worry, the LLC could handle it. It was only going to be $5,000 a month. Now, if you do the math, well, a 5-year loan, $5,000 a month, that means it was 0% interest. So he kind of didn't make a lot of sense. But what I'm saying is Randy Ward corrected us last night. That loan was actually taken out 3 months earlier, according to Randy, and it's not $300,000, it's $386,000.
Thank you.
Which
Is the 86 the interest, or is that the amount of the loan?
I believe it's part of the principal, because he did say it's been paid down a bit, and when I did ask the question, I did ask the original principal, so I would say that's part of the principle.
But it's not just sprinklers, it's a complete irrigation system. I'm not saying it's right, but don't just say it's sprinklers, it's computers, it's wire, there's a lot that goes into it.
Sir, I would suggest you're right. I would suggest you're right. The sprinklers
I'm
need,
not saying it was right the way it was done, I'm just saying it's more than people just start thinking, well, they go to Home Depot and they say sprinklers for $13, how can you spend
yeah.
that much?
Well, that's what we've always referred to it as,
Okay.
sprinklers. So, but yeah, I understand there's a control cabinet. And as for the other components, I'm not too sure.
There's a lot to it. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying there's a lot to it.
Yeah. So the whole package, 386. And Jeff has said that the principal has come down a little bit.
I have two very quick comments. One is that I have been here for 34 years, and my husband and I were both members of the golf course.
I can't hear you.
Grab the mic.
I have two short comments. I've lived here for 34 years. I was, my husband and I were members from the very beginning. I know for a fact that people in the beginning, we were snowbirds for 17 years. We paid all summer long. We never got any break, never asked for any break. If we were gone, that was our choice. And so we felt that we were helping keep our golf course going. So it would be nice when we got back. That's a fact. The other is a question. It seems to me, and I very well could be wrong, that you are comparing today to a few months or ago, rather than comparing it to when this was a successful, wonderful, beautiful place. And we need to compare it to what it could be again, not what it was when this green was torn up and this was no sprinklers over here. It's my opinion.
Well, thank you. And for a quick answer, PRG did not give us any information when we bought it. I asked for data, and I was told if I wanted information, I had to sue them to get it. So I would like to look at the performance. I have an email from that was sent to the PRGC residents who claimed that they were in financial distress again. And again, I know of 2014 when there was that transaction with the maintenance shed that provided liquidity to PRGC. I'm not too sure what happened between 2015 and 2020 when we had to really bail it out. In 2020, I have an email that was sent out, I believe, from Teresa, who said that they made inquiries to 7 banks for financing. 4 of those banks refused to accept an application, and 3 of them did take an application, 3 of them refused, with the last one being Truist in Ocala, who said they didn't take single tenant properties, and they said if they had to take the property, they doubted if they could get 30 cents on the dollar. Okay, so that was 2020. So, ma'am, you know, I think Cranes is a beautiful course. I took a ride on it. I took it early in the morning, rightfully or wrongfully. I thought, well, if I'm going to talk about this, I got to see it firsthand. And the gentleman who is an avid golfer, who again doesn't play Plantation, he prefers Monarch, he took me around. We looked at Cranes. We went through every green, every fairway. We went to the back 9 of Otter. I was disappointed, back 9 of Otter, but I was inspired by Cranes. It is a beautiful course. But you know, the one thing that really stuck in my mind, it's like the 3rd tee, or maybe it's the 4th tee, there's this nice monument there that says, you know, it's a par 3, you know, so many yards, whatever. And then down it says, floors of distinction. And I thought, how tacky, you know, to see this advertisement for floors of distinction. Well, I'm sure it's a sponsor, and I hope there's revenue earned from it, but it's like, I was really inspired. It's a beautiful course. My takeaway from it, it's not ready for prime time. But anyway, let's get to that in a minute, okay? Let's get to that in a minute. Let's continue. So again, this club or this activity has been subsidized and to a great deal. And the pools never were, the pickleball never were, but we've already subsidized more than 3.3 million.
Just one quick question before you.
Sure.
I've seen this number several times. How many people?
Can't hear you.
How many people are we talking about that we're paying $26,000 a month to work in a pro shop? How many people are we talking?
Sir, I don't have that information. Typically, on a monthly basis, you see the pro shop wages somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000. I do not know the number. I suspect that number has jumped up because there's been volunteers that have been working heavy equipment that needed to be hired so that in case there was an accident, insurance would cover them. I suspect it could be that. But then, right after June, Dick Penny resigned, so that could be severance as well.
I want a job there.
Severance for what, sir? You mean you think Penny got paid?
Excuse me?
Are you saying that Dick Petty got paid?
I did not say Dick Petty got paid. I said volunteers who were working heavy equipment needed to be hired and paid because they needed insurance in case that it was a high hazard activity.
We're talking about the severance you just made.
And I said, I don't know what that.
Well, then don't make reference to that. Why did you say?
Oh, come on, it's light. It could be severance. It could be severance.
Severance is a big word. We're talking about money.
Okay, let's get back to facts. That was, hey, did you see severance on there? That was just my opinion, okay? That was my joke. Levity, okay? Levity.
There's no levity in that.
Okay, there's one. Okay, so this is the actual, let's go back to this. This is the actual. I said, I don't know what it is. I don't know what that $26,000 is. The gentleman asked, what's in the pro shop? I don't know how many people work the pro shop. Typically, it's between $18,000 and $20,000. Okay? Okay? Peace. Okay, so this activity's certainly been subsidized, and golf is not an amenity. Though I know many people wish it were an amenity. It's not paid out of the HOA operating. It is a standalone business.
Would you say that it's an asset?
Sir, an asset has value. If you look at the cash flows that have been earned over the last year, I would say this asset has very little value. But on a liquidation basis, the land is listed on the HOA balance sheet for about $77,000. Maybe that's the liquidation value. But as a going concern, there is very little value. From a financial point of view, $1 million of losses over 22 months, that is not, it's insolvent. It's the definition of insolvent. But, as an investment, if you, discount cash flows and use traditional valuation methods, value is zero.
Since the restaurant has been part of the golf operation and we have a totally separate kind of thing going on with the restaurant now, do the figures that, cost figures and that sort of thing, does that include previous restaurant, like employees and amounts and stuff, or is that totally separate? Because it's like a totally different thing that's going on now with the restaurant.
So are you talking about these numbers?
I'm just talking about kind of all the numbers. I'm just wondering, is that kind of all rolled in there? Because it's going to be very different going forward.
The LLC, in the LLC results, it did include the Oaks up until this final month. Okay, and from this final month, obviously, it would still be on there because I believe the utilities comes, some expenses are paid. But we should also see a payment from Mama's because their contract, as I understand it, is that they will pay a certain percentage of sales. And possibly and they're supposed to pay some utilities as well.
Yeah, I think they said at the HOA meeting, I think it was that they would pay half of the operating costs like air conditioning and that sort of thing, and then the golf side would pay half, I think is what was said.
Right, so we should see either a cash flow from that. But again, Dick Penny has left. I don't know who's in charge of now producing the financial statements for the LLC. We'll know shortly if that come out. So moving ahead, so the recommended strategy, if we need to cut costs or reduce costs, if we need to stabilize revenue, then why don't we provide the golfing community with an opportunity to maintain, in some configuration, 18 holes of golf without any financial support from the community than as originally stipulated, which should lower costs. Then what we can do is align the fees to reflect the remaining operational costs and reduce the seasonal impact. And then what resources we have, we can focus on the 18 holes that the golfers want and make those 18 holes the best 18 holes that they can be. Otter Creek shareholders will need qualified, responsive LLC leadership, so we need to pick the right people to put it in the right place. They need to answer to the board, and so we need to have a board that does more than just rubber stamp the decisions. It's very curious that part of the special assessment is that the LLC will not make any decisions without over $25,000 or $30,000 without the board approval. 3 members of the HOA board are on the LLC board. You know, I mean, to me, that's very kind of funny. So let's assume that we have 18 holes, and let's call it Otter Creek. So let's close those 18 holes and give it to residents for the benefit of the community. We can form a committee to manage the transition of those 18 holes to resident use. In return for past financial result, so this is to the community, for the benefit of the community. In return for the past financial support, the residents will get the remaining holes, remaining 18 holes that the golfers don't want. That acreage is maintained as green space. Will there be a cost? Undoubtedly, yes. But not every fairway will need to be trimmed, not every tee box will need to be mowed, and not every green will need to be maintained. The cost savings is significant, and this plan has been supported by past and current management. They voiced their opinions that if this was not profitable, we would turn it into green space.
It won't be green space, it'll be brown space. We've already seen that when the sprinklers were turned off. It's brown space.
Well,
or weed space. I already experienced that in the Riverwalk too.
Right. Well, not every fairway would be turned off. Some fairways would be maintained, not to the degree to call it a golf fairway, but at least be mowed and trimmed.
How much value are you gonna lose in the houses that are on those fairways you don't wanna maintain?
Well, there's all the homes that are on the fairways will be maintained. It's the fairways that are like 11 or 12 that do not have homes that we can let go.
You know what'll grow up then?
Well, can we finish? Let's finish before we get into this, because these are the points we need to discuss. These.
I could very quickly, you know, this point has been brought up, that if they close the courses.
Sir, we can't hear your comment.
I'm sorry, all right. Very quickly. You know, I think most of us are aware that if you close the golf courses, you're gonna lose.
Microphone's not on.
He's turning it up now.
Here it is.
Is it ready now? Yeah. Okay. If you close the courses, it's gonna cost you 20%. So I thought, well, where did they get that? So what I did is I went and checked the assessment values, the tax So what I did is I checked the tax assessments. So the tax assessments should reflect the value of your home, correct?
No.
They do? You mean, if you have a more expensive home, your assessment is low? There's no direct relationship between.
No, there's not. The tax assessments are based on what you purchased your home for.
Exactly. Precisely.
Okay, but my
And then
home is
what?
worth 2 times what I purchased it for.
I'll wait. Wait for it. I'm not arguing, I'm just saying what I did.
Use the microphone,
I went,
please.
okay. I went and looked at the tax assessments for the homes. I thought, okay, if your value drops when they close close a course, your assessment should go down. No? Well, if your value goes down 20%, your assessment shouldn't go down.
Do that.
Why won't it happen?
You're talking wish list and I'm talking reality.
All right, well, okay, then you call. But the next thing I did, Mr. Smarty, is I called the appraisal office, Lake County Appraisal Office. Talked directly to the appraiser. And I said to him, wait for it. I said to the tax appraiser.
No room in this discussion to
Well, no, it's about the loss of value. Every time it's brought up, that there's a loss of value to your home.
Hi, everybody.
Am I wrong?
No, look, let's go ahead.
We need, let's move on, and then we're gonna come
The
back
tax, all
around.
right, let me just say this. The tax assessor, quote,
Somebody needs to take
there
charge of the
never
meeting.
has been a loss, quote, there has never been a loss in market value of a home related to the closure of a golf course in Lake County.
Ma'am, you
Quote,
Hello, sir, thank you.
Take charge of the meeting.
Okay, so, my apologies. That's what you call creep.
Yeah,
Not a creep, that's
Feature creep.
feature creep.
Scope creep.
yeah.
So anyway, so where we were is that, okay, so we are given some acreage. The golf course, we are focusing on 18 holes for cranes, or 18 holes for a working golf course. We are focusing our resources there. And it is being turned into a very, very attractive, because we can focus our resources. What do we do with the other acreage? So we give it to the community. And some of the ideas that have been brought forward are, we have community gardens. Plots are given to villages. Plots are given to clubs. Plots are given to individuals. Not given like entitled, but they have the responsibility. Maybe they can grow food.
Hey, everybody, thank you.
Quiet!
Thank you.
So if you're not a gardener, that's fine. That's fine. There are a lot of gardeners out there. Walking trails and bike paths are very popular suggestion. Exercise circuits, where there are stations where people can stop and do an exercise, move on to the next station, and burn a certain amount of calories. It's a organized circuit. Dog parks are very high on the list. Off-leash dog parks. And obviously we need two, one for the big, one for the small dogs. And then possibly we could take a fairway and describe it or set it as the Great Lawn. Plantation can have a great lawn, and we can build an amphitheater. And during the season, perhaps we could have concerts outside.
You're getting out of crazy now.
Well, who thinks it's crazy? Who thinks it's crazy? I think
These are just suggestions.
these are suggestions that people are very enthused about. Okay? So a great lawn with an amphitheater. So there are opportunities out there to use the acreage. We can let it grow wild, certainly, but there's also opportunities.
Wait,
Well, we
everybody.
haven't opened up to suggestions.
Don't waste the mic on.
Why are we paying?
Hold on, everybody. Everybody.
Yes, I agree with this man saying, but you got 500 houses on the golf course, and you're saying we should subsidize, say, 250 houses.
Let the man finish his presentation.
Hey,
But everybody-
sir, come on,
Let him
come back
finish his
in.
presentation.
Come back
Sir,
in.
no. Sir, your opinions are valuable.
Okay.
That's too bad. Anyway, well, we find that the board is really grasping at straws, trying to, what we feel, use very, very spurious reasons to try to get us to once more commit to this. And maintaining the functionality of the clubhouse, that to us doesn't really make sense. HOA, we think there'd be less cost of insurance because there'd be less risk, we have the irrigation, there's no need to decommission it. And this is the issue. This is the issue that everyone seems to be focusing on. And from what I understand, there is a positive correlation between how a golf course is run, maintained, and operated, and the value of the homes surrounding it. So if it is a very well-run operation, you'll see improvements in home properties. It will be a desirable community. There'll be demand for those homes. At the same time, if it's not a very well-run operation, you'll lose value. Okay, just being on a golf course doesn't have value itself. So if it's a poorly run like we have, and I would suggest we've already lost some value because nobody wants to see special assessments, right? Nobody wants to hear about how lousy the golf course is. So our reputation has really kind of harmed us. So what needs to happen is if the board wants to save golf, if this community wants to save golf, they should redefine its objectives as we have outlined here and produce a win-win. That's a win-win for golfers. They'll have a beautiful course that they can be proud of, and a win for the rest of the community where they will not be special assessed over and over again, and perhaps they'll have some benefit from some acreage that will be available to them for community use.
I don't want to know.
We don't either. No way.
So lastly, we need to be vigilant. We really need to be vigilant. If you look at what's going on with the contracts that are going on and with what the HOA is doing, is slowly but surely they're absorbing the LLC into the HOA. And what that's going to do is make then golf operations will be then through the HOA operations. There'll be no more special assessments. They could just go through the regular monthly assessments. And that monthly assessment then would have to raise significantly. Significantly. If you've ever looked at the financial statements or ever looked at the construction of the LLC versus the HOA, the LLC was designed from the start to be dissolved. There are no hard assets there. If the LLC does a repair or an improvement on the course, it is recognized on the HOA's balance sheet. The HOA pays money for reimbursement of the capital spending, and the HOA recognizes it. So the assets are already on the HOA's balance sheet. What's on the LLC's balance sheet? Fictitious assets. $85,000 worth of computer equipment? Come on. $200,000 worth of fixtures and fittings? No, no. The LLC has been designed to quickly be folded up and absorbed, and operations absorbed by the HOA.
Can an HOA operate a golf course in Florida?
Sure.
Yeah, but it becomes
Not as a business.
Well, no, an HOA can operate a for-profit business. The idea that this LLC was created for tax purposes is bogus because we consolidate for tax purposes. If you look at the 2021 tax return, it was a combined tax return. So it was not created for tax purposes. It was not created for managerial financing purposes because it's confusing to see this going back and forth. What it was created for, I'm really not too sure. I asked Randy Ward, I said, Randy, is this idiocy or is this genius? What is it? I said, because to maintain this is a real pain, but the genius is it can be folded up like that. And if creditors, if there's an issue and creditors come after you, they'll find that, boom, the LLC just disappears. The assets there are fictitious. The assets in the LLC are just created. They took the purchase price. And I have a spreadsheet that shows the purchase price and percentages to be applied to the purchase price and then applied to assets. And at the top of this column on the spreadsheet, it says, as per Mike. So it was like Mike Niagara who made that decision. but just simple percentages. But anyway, I digress. I can tell you a lot of stories if you're interested, but I digress. Let's talk. Let's talk. We've covered a lot of territory here.
Hold on. Do you guys want the lights on?
Lights on.
Lights
Let's turn the
on.
lights on. Nancy Hagan is going to take the mic for a minute. She has a few issues that she'd like to just mention. And let's turn off the presentation. Thank you for your participation. I really appreciate the opportunity to present this to you. Thank you.
I have just a few things to say that I want to bring to your attention. Number one is, when I first moved here 17 years ago, we had approximately an annual budget of $3.5 million. And we had approximately 5 people who are managing those funds. And we're now, as of last year, at over $7 million. If they go to this $175 a month HOA fee, we will be close to a business enterprise of $10 million. 3 people cannot efficiently run that. So when we vote to put somebody on the board, we need to consider, not that they're our best buddy, not that we have a social acquaintanceship, we have to consider, do we have a wide spread of people who know accounting, who know budgeting? To me, I've been in business for a long, long time as an employee and have worked every type of accounting possible. And I never, ever worked for a company who went from August of 22 to now and not had audited results, or who have not had a budget every month where you were over, you were under, you were on track. We never had a company where we had a $10,000 credit card limit and gave out cards, didn't get receipts, didn't match them to the bill. What, are they out shopping, going for dinner, buying their gas? You cannot give out that kind of responsibility unless you have accountability. And we've not had that. And as Ed has so eloquently pointed out, we're getting a bunch of fictitious figures every month. We asked at that last meeting, and they offered to do an audit. My impression personally is we should not give them another dime until we get a reputable company to do a financial audit. We can't go forward trying to get a bank loan or pay off a bank loan when you have no idea what you owe. We have already given them all the money from the assessment in less than 2 years that was supposed to last 7 years. So now they want you to cough up $225. That's going to come to close to $800,000 overall. That's almost the amount we gave them to begin with.
Right.
So how often are we going to keep going and going and going?
Can I interrupt for a minute? I'd like to play you something. I received an anonymous phone call on July 15th at 6:31 p.m. This is what the phone call, the message was.
We can't hear you.
The only way you can do an audit is having records. There are no records. This has come from the person in charge of the LLC. There are no records to audit. They are stonewalling everything because they don't know what to do. I'm going to touch it another time.
Can I play that again?
Anyway, to make this short, the thing is...
Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Come on. Be serious.
Okay, here's another point. It's kind of abstract, but I think everybody that runs their own household can think about it. If you go out and you have a project you need done at your house, and you get maybe 2 or 3 bids, and somebody says, well, I'll come and do that for $1,500. So when they come and they do the work, are you going to give them $25,000? Are you going to give them $3,000? No. You said you would do this quality job for X amount. That's what I expect. Do you have any idea how many of the contracts that were bid and somebody came in and said, I'll do that for $300,000, and then we pay them $4.25? I guarantee if anybody could find all those bids, what was bid and how much we paid them, 95% would have at least a 20% overrun. You cannot operate a business that way. When you're anticipating X amount of revenue, and then you're spending 2X of expenses. And the other last thing that I want to say about the September and March contribution from us, they want to put $212,000 in a contingency. That sounds like a good idea, but with the people who have been doing this operation since the golf club was purchased, that's a bucket that means I'm not going to account for that. And I have reviewed the statements myself. Do you know how many times they write off 4,000, 5,000 as over and short? Which means they can't account for it. How can we keep doing this? You have to think of it from your bottom line. What can we afford to put into these courses without accountability? You need to have somebody who you're going to hold their feet to the fire. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I have a question. How in the heck can we separate the LLC from the HOA and not have anybody on both boards?
Well, they are legally separated.
Not with the same people.
But with the boards, you're absolutely
You got
correct.
the same people on there.
You know, so, but we have the situation, who appoints them? So if the board appoints that board, they're still gonna be sympathetic. So maybe what we need to do is have a election for the LLC as well.
Or hire a management company who has a good record of taking care of golf courses.
Right.
That is not answerable to the HOA.
My comment on the manager issue is that we could have a great manager, or we can hire a great management company. It will come down to oversight. Either one, we will need to provide the oversight. And that's what happened with Exude. We could have caught them in some of the things that I believe they were doing, but there was no oversight. In Lee Graphics' contract, it said for him to meet once a month with Exude to view the finances. I don't know if you know Lee. I know Lee, and he doesn't know accounting. So to put him in a position where he had to review the accounting, that's asking for trouble. So again, we could have a great management company, we could have a great manager, we could do it ourselves, but what we have to do is provide oversight. And either one is fine, but oversight is the key.
Okay, two quick things. First one,
Thank you for your...
I would like to see the financials monthly in the Plantation Times so we can all see them. And number two, I know that Cindy mentioned that most of the golf courses up in the villages were 9 holes. So why don't we keep the 9 that we just fixed, have a 9-hole, have the 18-hole, don't fix up the other 9 other than maintaining the ones around the homes to keep the values up for them and the beauty of it, and not put the other 200,000 into improving when a 9-hole seems to be the way things are going.
Might be very prohibitive compared to the revenue that we will get. So we will find ourselves in the position of subsidizing again. So I have no issues against 27 holes. I have no issues against 27 holes. But we have to make sure that the revenue can support it, right? And right now, revenue looks like it can support 18 holes, Can it do that other 9? Let's, you know, some people say yes, some people say no. We gotta work through the numbers. You know, we gotta talk to Brightview. We have to have somebody that really understands the dynamics of this and can put it to paper.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said about the 9 holes, okay? And I agree with the lady who says, why not do the 9 holes? You have them, they're working. If you price it right, they may come. I know a whole lot of golfers who are a little older, they can't handle 18 holes. You got a perfectly good 18-hole golf course right now, and it's fine. It's just a little tired. It needs a little refresh, that's all. So I'm with you on that particular score, but it's got to be priced right. You've got to get the revenue. And you don't do that by looking all around you and saying, well, this one does this and that one does that. Get creative, think out of the box. I'm sorry, but my training, I'm an auditor, and I know you guys hate the word audit. But the whole point of this whole thing is, I'm going to boil it down for you. You need the right people in the jobs. You need to do a cost-benefit analysis. Make sure that you determine whether it's right to outsource or whether it's in-house. Look at the efficiency of it. If you outsource, you better have oversight. If you don't have oversight, you're going to be dead meat. And if you don't have the right people who know how to write and read contracts with that expertise and the negotiation expertise, you're not going to make it. Now, it's not just advertising that's going to get you the revenue. You have to know your target audience. Determine who the hell your target audience is. And then we need positive exposure. You can have positive exposure. You make it. You think out of the box to do it. I was offended by one of the statements in here that says, if we get the assessment, we'll do a review of our operation. Wrong. Do the review of the operation, because Ed's right, the costs are too high for what you get. I'm done.
May I ask, why are we paying for y'all's big mistakes?
Because we own it.
But who's
We pay into it.
Why are we paying for the mistakes that they're making?
Right.
Well,
Because nobody stopped them yet.
We own this asset, and we gave it in the care of some individuals that did not take good care of it.
But we shouldn't have to pay for
They
the
should be
mistakes.
held responsible.
They should be held responsible.
Well, if you would like to suggest that the special assessment only goes to the golf members, then I think you need to put that on the table, and we should discuss that. Should this special assessment only apply to the golf members and not to the residents? Because I think that would fly, but it won't be $150, right? It won't be $150.
Then you need to hire people who know how to do their
I don't
job.
need a microphone. I can speak plenty loud enough. 31 years here. All right, that's my background. But I want to tell you a story. Just prior to the last election for the board, there was an email sent out. On Thursday at 4 o'clock, no more applications. I'm reading the email at 2 o'clock. There's been no applications yet turned into the board. The board that was there automatically got on the board. Shame on you.
Yes.
Shame on you. Nobody volunteered, and now you're here. Shame, shame.
You can hear me too, I don't need this. My name's Mark
Let me just comment on what she said. I don't have the expertise to audit and what all he's talking about. If you want a bowl made from a board, I'll make you a bowl. I don't have that expertise. But the people that do should step forward.
Ed did step forward. And the board would not accept, he's got absolutely great credentials. And the board wouldn't take it. So don't say nobody knows the line. You don't know.
Okay, give the floor to this gentleman here, please.
Name's Mark Crouch. I am a golfer. I am a member of the golf club. I was listening on Zoom. There was a couple things I wanted to bring up. I came over doing face-to-face. Free golf, okay. It's not $212. It's $212 for the golf, but we also pay a card fee, which we just paid $800 and some for an annual back in July 1st. We pay about $276 monthly. That's good. That's a good rate. I'm not going to complain about it, all right? I was on the PRTC board for years 3, 4, and 5 when DTE had the contract. They made money when both courses were in equal shape. They made money. In fact, the last 2 years, they crossed the threshold where they were required to pay a percentage of that amount over that threshold. That's right. We got about $7,000 from it. It wasn't much, that's what we got. Those two courses can make money if they're in good shape and they're moving that direction. Thank you.
You know, a good comment was made by the gentleman about people stepping forward that have experienced credentials. I'd like to call to the podium Ron Rich, a gentleman in the back there who's been a long-term resident of this community and who has worked through some of the numbers and has some good ideas. Ron, would you like to come forward and talk to us about what you...
You guys just want to talk. There's things that there's simple solutions to this. You guys just want to stand up there and talk. None of this, you keep calling it a business. It's not a business unless there's somebody running the business.
We understand.
Okay, you cannot have the people running the business also rubber stamping the checkbook.
We're not
And be aware, just from your numbers, be prepared, the losses are $744 a house per year.
Who you got in mind to write?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Ron, would you like to come forward?
Waste of time.
Ron, would you like to make a comment? No? Okay.
First of all,
What's your name?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we need to do names. Names.
Peter Melcher. Look, first of all, I apologize to all of you. I get a little excited, I'm a little hyper.
Can't hear you.
Oh, I don't know what the hell.
You just stick it in front of your mouth. Not this way,
Look,
this way.
This way?
Yeah.
I got it, thank you. Okay, apologies. I'm not here to cause trouble. All I was questioning is this 20%. I own a home worth about $400. I figured I'm gonna lose $80,000 if the course is closed. That's what everybody's telling me, but I thought, okay, can I check that? Okay, bottom line, I spoke to the appraiser, tax appraiser in Lake County this morning. He said to me, at the end of our conversation, the closure of a golf course in Lake County never reduced home value. Never reduced home value. And he specifically referenced Palisades, if you've played it, Legacy, if you ever replaced it. And I said, how come? He says, well, what happens if they close a golf course? We wait a year at least, or more, and if the property values go down, then we reassess. He says that's never happened, just so you know.
That's good information.
Thank you.
And again, I apologize, I didn't mean to.
You're good.
I'm like,
I've only been here a short time, and I'm impressed by all the accounting people we have here.
Can't hear you.
I've got 48 years in maintenance. I worked for the largest steel company in the world for many years, and we had a lot of people in accounting doing audits. People that know maintenance
need to meet daily, if not every morning, with who's working on your golf course. You have to have an accounting of what they're gonna do, what they're gonna spend, and then you make your decisions. You don't do it monthly. Also, if you close audit, or you do anything with audit, remember, you've already paid all the money to have the greens redone. You paid $400,000 in irrigation. It's all brand new there. To give up on it before the first special assessment is done, without knuckling down and everybody doing what they have to do, and looking at how we can raise the value of the course, we're just throwing our money away on our first assessment by it. And the $400,000, we're still gonna have to pay that. I mean, that falls right back to the HOA to pay it. And how are they gonna write a check? Well, they may have to do a special assessment to pay that balance off, or do something else. So, before we look at closing a golf course, we really have to look what we've already paid. It's hard work. It is seasonal, there is no two ways about that, but you can't give up just because in a year and a half things haven't gone right. It's piss poor management that has got us there. The guy that is the general manager of the golf course should have been living on those irrigations. It should have been done at a lower cost or right on time, and all the greens should have been done at the same time, and we'd have 2 courses open right now, and then we would see how much money's coming in. And the older guys that have been here, just like the gentleman that stepped in here, the courses did make money. The courses can make money. Are we gonna be millionaires? No. But they will make enough money to keep themselves open and have revenue coming in, so we're not facing this down the road. So.
This time it's different.
I think the only thing I want to add.
I don't know if this time is different or not, but when people volunteer to do things, everybody's got, not just the accountant. I can't add 3 and 3, okay? But I'll damn sure make sure a pump's put in right, and it's running when it's supposed to be, and the irrigation is being done. And there's a lot of people out here that can do a lot of that kind of stuff, and accounting is a big part of it, and they should be included on that.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, I don't want to tell you that. My name is Jerry Butcher.
Jerry, thank you so much. I hope we meet again, and I hope we meet down there where you're doing the maintenance and I'm doing the books. That's very awesome.
Hey, I'm Bob Fry. How's everybody doing? I have a question. You had mentioned that when you had the list of things, you said that we paid off the golf courses already. Is that true?
Can't hear you. I had a list of subsidies, excuse me. We paid off the PRGC mortgage of $1.2 million. We put $1.5 million of cash into it through the special assessment. We've assumed the responsibility for Maynard Thompson's loan, which is $396,000 at closing. And then we have assumed the PNC debt for the irrigation, which isn't $300,000, it's $386,000, for a total of approximately $3.4 million.
But we already paid off. So
that's what we've already spent.
No, but we paid
Well, or have obligated ourselves to. We haven't paid off the PNC debt, but we're obligated to. Those are the subsidies. That's the benefit they have gotten, the golf course have gotten.
So where did like the $1,336.52 that people wrote prepaid?
Can't hear you. Where is the special assessment? The 1,106. Well, actually, call it $1,200.
Everybody who prepaid that money went to the loan?
What happened with that money is,
Hey, Ed, we can't hear any of that conversation.
he wanted to know what happened to the special assessment, that everyone paid what?
Once they paid it off at once.
Right, so what happened with the money that was prepaid? 776 people prepaid, that produced somewhere about $900,000. Approximately $400,000 of that just went into spending. $500,000 of that was used to pay down the Fustos loan. The Fustos loan was 1.7 million. $500,000 was used to pay that down. Of the $15 a month that was of the special assessment, $8.55 is earmarked to pay off Fustos. $3.23 was for operations, to pay, to support operations, to pay back losses, and $3.22 was for capital spending. And given my calculations, we blew through that by December of 2022. I'm surprised that the board has waited this long to say, we need money, really. And if you remember, in March, Randy Ward stood up and said it will take $1.2 million to pay off Fustos. It'll take $410,000 to pay off Maynard. Afterwards, we will have $358,000 left over. Since then, we have assumed $386,000 of PNC debt, and we have paid through cash advances approximately $180,000 to the LLC through the special assessment. I don't see how we have any money left to pay the debt. I believe this new special assessment is all about paying the debt. It's all about paying the debt. It is not, well, 325 they say is to support losses. Yeah, support losses because we have no money, we can't pay the debt. So that's what that money is for.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure. Just hold on, everybody. Here's a question.
On this chart you have here,
Sorry, sir.
just repeat what I'm saying. On the chart, you have about 1.5 million, and it says cash advance and reimbursement. That's the special assessment, correct?
That's correct.
How can you add those together like that?
Add
Because
it
most
together.
of, you already said that a large chunk of that went to the food slips line.
I'm talking about subsidies. What's the benefit that the Gulf has gotten? They had their 1.2 million paid off. We've also given them 1.5 million. We've assumed responsibility for 3.96, and we've assumed responsibility for 386,000. I'm not saying that 1.7 million is comprised of this. I'm not double counting.
You are, because
No, I'm
part of that special assessment pays off the food slips line. You can't have the two full figures in the shop.
Yes, $3.23 goes to pay for operations. $3.22 goes to pay for capital spending. You add that together and multiply it times 12, times 7, times 20, and you get 1.5 million. $8.55 of that $15 is to pay off the Fustos loan. That is separate. There's two different things. No, seriously, sir, I'm not double counting. Thank you.
Okay, here's my question. So are you saying you're proposing, well, I don't know, how's that? Are you you're proposing like a hybrid situation where we close one course and work on the other course? So does that mean that we vote not to do the assessment? So we still have the same people in charge. Who's going to put that, who's going to follow through with that? We all have good ideas here, but we got the same people. How is that going to work?
That is the $1 million question. That is the $1 million question. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? Well, it's my opinion we have to let the board know of our desires, of what we want. But what do we want? This meeting was to help us determine what do we want. Do we want 1, 2, 0, 27 holes, 18 holes? What do we want? We want 36 holes. So there's a vote for 2 courses. Is that what we want, 2 courses? How are we going to pay for 2 courses?
How many rounds of golf can we play on 2 courses?
How many rounds of golf can you play on 2 courses?
What did we do when the PRG
How many rounds are available on cranes
that aren't taking? Can those 2 rounds that are on Otter and Cranes be just played on Cranes? The utilization of Cranes is very, very low.
Under the conditions we're in, yes.
But even during the prime time, it's also been very
When
low.
PRG started, how many rounds of golf were played on these 2 courses?
PRGC has not provided that
80,000
information.
rounds. 80,000 rounds, over $2 million in revenue.
That's highly doubtful.
No. That's because you don't want to believe the truth.
Well, because I've seen 56,000 rounds, which I thought was awfully high.
80,000 rounds.
80,000 rounds. I'd like to see the numbers supporting that, please. But PRGC and the management
I
has.
live on one of those courses, and the parade of people going by playing golf was tremendous on both of them. And
That's
I'm
great to
telling
know.
you, they were-
That's great to know.
If the conditions are right, the golf.
Yeah, what is that?
Sir, when was that?
Yeah, what year? What year?
Whenever the PRG started. What we started
2006.
PRG,
Things I think have changed since 2006. I think we have
We all
quite a
can't
different.
talk at the same time.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have the same marketplace as we did back in 2006? It's probably smaller.
We do not have the same market that you had back in 2006. I don't know if the number is exactly correct, but I asked, how many members do we have at this golf course? The number that I was told was about 125 members. Now, I don't know if that's correct, but 145, okay. Even at 145, you cannot support 2 18-hole golf courses with 145 members. No way. No way. You cannot. I managed a golf course. I managed a golf course in Germany, and we had over 500 members, and we only had 18 holes. It was a German-American golf course, and the Germans paid much higher fees than what.
Individual paid golfers who came into this place to play. I'm telling you, there were 80.
You cannot support 18 holes of golf with what we have now. We can talk all we want about 2006 and your parade of golfers that went past your house. It's not happening today. I drive past those golf holes every day, and I hardly see anyone out there in the afternoon. In the mornings, they have a shotgun start. All the holes are not filled. You cannot maintain it. I don't care what you say about the money, all of these figures that they had. We do not have the membership to support 36 holes of golf.
Hi, I just want to say something real quick. Hi, I just want to say something real quick. My name is Russ. I live in the Chanticleer Village, okay? Can you hear me now? So my name is Russ.
I hear you when you're talking to the mic.
Okay, I'll do my best, okay? So my name is Russ, and I live in the Chanticleer Village, okay? And just a little bit about my background really quickly. You know, I have had businesses that I've managed $9 billion in revenue. So that's with a B, not a million, $1 billion in revenue, okay? And one thing I've learned by being in a lot of executive presentations at board levels and CEO levels is that you have a right to present, and I think you did a fine job presenting and giving ideas. But just because what you present doesn't make it true, and doesn't make it accurate. And I think what we have to do, and I think it's our responsibility, is to absorb what he said, but we also need to go look and get other numbers. We need to get different opinions. We can act on what he says, what Ed says. But Ed, I know you would not want us to just take your word for it, because that's not what you want, right? No one would want that in a business situation. Can I just finish, please, and you can talk. So so I think that's what we need to do, is take a quick pause. And this is what I would do. I would say, okay, you presented the information, we've absorbed it, thank you for the options, but now we need to go back and take a deeper look. And we can get emotional about that, and we can scream at each other, and we can say there's not enough people to support the golf course, and we can say there is. But the fact is, none of us really know. None of us.
We have 145 members, who just hold that.
So just,
You can't run
so,
36 holes with 145 members,
so,
no way.
so please just, I didn't interrupt you, so all I'm saying is that I think we're at a point where we're at in this meeting, quite honestly, is we're at a pause point. I do appreciate you apologizing. I don't think there's any room in any meeting or any relationship of calling them names. So I appreciate you stepping up and saying that, so thank you very much. When I've seen that happen in meetings, and I will tell you, when I run big meetings and you get to that point, I just stop the meeting like I tried to do here and say, time out, we're not gonna do that. You can make a point without calling someone a name, right? So listen, that's all I wanted to say. I want to tell you that I certainly appreciate your right to give a view, but I also think that before we accept the view, we need to do a little more research. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, sir. Sir, what's your name?
My name's Russ.
Russ, would you like to buy a golf course?
So let's really kind of
I'm told, keep it light, keep it light.
serious discussion. It's really not in the but I'll let it go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Gina Strzelecki.
Thank you for
I live in Riverwalk, and I...
But that's not an excuse.
Guys,
Hey, please, come on, please.
Hi, so I'm learning as I go, and I understand the should, and the roundabout of this, and the history of that, and all. But we need to go forward, and I don't know how we can go forward. Because to me, we're on a timeline. A vote is coming in, we have to make a decision. Now, I do respect golfers, because I love your golf course, I love looking at it, and I've contributed the recent assessment, and I'm being asked to contribute again to another assessment for that beautiful golf course. Well, you want my opinion, I'm giving it to you. I would.
Go ahead.
I'm voting for, and I like the recommendations for the full golf course, 18 holes plus the 9. I did my own little tidbit research, and we're having generations coming up to us, which are the millennials and the Gen Zs. And their lifestyle is a lot different than ours. And they read about them because they're our future for the golf community. I like the community idea of the other 9-hole area to be dedicated to something else because frankly, I'm making my financial contribution for the golf community. And I want something out of this. So I want the win-win, and I want the guys that really are very strong-minded about this and that for golf to step back and take a look at my position. Thank you.
She made a very valid point about the next couple of generations coming along.
That's unbelievably brave.
And I've made the comment to several people about just the villages as a whole. What's going to happen to them? You know, are they going to be able to sustain what they have? Because those next couple of generations, like she indicated, I'm not sure they're into golf. I'm not sure what they're into right now. Video games, gaming, exactly. Yeah. They're not really.
Video golf.
Video golf. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 10 to 20 years with the villages and how do they change their plans, their structures, everything about them right now is geared towards, you know, the 55 plus that's been brought up in this arena that outdoor sports, golf, tennis, pickleball, I mean, you name it, any of those are very popular right now. But who knows what in the next 10 to 20 years is going to happen. And like I said, what's going to happen to the villages and all of that property and all of those golf courses, are they going to be able to sustain? I don't have an answer. No, nobody in this room has an answer. Yeah. And believe me, for me in this room and hope everybody else, you want them to survive. You want them to be sustainable. That makes us successful as well. And you know, there was conversations last night at the other meeting about, you know, the homes that are being built down off of 470 by like KB Homes. Well, I have nothing against KB Homes, but KB Homes in my mind is an entry-level builder, kind of like the R. Horton is in some areas. Most of those people moving in are going to have families. Are they going to have an extra $50 a day, $60 a day, whatever it may be, to play golf? I doubt it. I doubt it, yeah. And if we're counting on that group of people moving in to help us become profitable, I don't think that is a plan. I don't think that is something we should be counting on. That's just my opinion, for whatever it's not worth. I did want to say, and unfortunately a lot of people have left, but I meant to say this earlier in the day. I want to thank Maynard for everything that he has done for this community and the golf courses over the last 20 plus years. Without him, we wouldn't be where we're at today in a positive way. And he does need to be commended for his dedication, his support, his work ethics, etc. So if you do see him around, please give him a pat on the back and a handshake. So he does deserve that. Anybody else?
Well, I'm kind of new here. My name is Janet. I got a big voice.
So do I.
Okay.
It's a long course.
My name's Janet, and my husband and I have been here just over 2 years. And I go along with this lady about, wanting to keep the golf courses, but do the 9 on Otter Creek. But one of the things that I brought to my mind was the off time, non-season. Why can't we bring in children and high school kids and like that, have leagues and like that on the 9 or wherever to bring in more money? There's got to be more things to do with the courses. I don't know much about golf at all.
But that's thinking outside the box, and that is what everybody needs to be doing or should be doing.
Always had Leesburg High School players out there practicing, since I can remember.
Okay, and also, my other thing is, is everybody voting on the 10th of August?
No, we're not voting on the 10th.
Oh.
The board is voting on it.
The board is voting on the 10th. We're on the 18th of September, I think. The email that went out this morning is the 18th, in person or by proxy. So it sounds like a long ways away, but it really is not a long ways away. We all know that. And your point.
Yeah, we've got to make some decisions and are we going to be able to stay with the board that we have, or?
That election is in December?
December 7th.
And that's way past what we have to go through.
But
and how do we make this work? Who we have to work with?
I'm going to let Rocky speak here for a minute because.
1 minute, me?
Well, 1 minute, maybe 2.
What am I speaking on?
Just about the fact that we're trying to have an open discussion with others, the board, and trying to get things resolved instead of waiting until afterwards.
Well, if you want my opinion about things,
Yes.
Lord, why me? I only own the speakers. I don't. Well, all right. I don't know where this is going, but I'll give you my opinion. And I'm nobody, by the way. I'm just another resident, okay, who owns that PA. That's all. Okay. Probably like a lot of people here and elsewhere, when I first heard about the special assessment, I said, no way, Jose. Ain't gonna happen, I ain't voting for it. But after a few weeks of conversations, listening to others, thinking about it, hearing different opinions for and against, my opinion has evolved, okay? And it's come down to this. Yes, we're going to have the special assessment vote very shortly. Not enough time to put together a business plan, to get the audit done, to correct the financials. I understand that. But my opinion at this point is, I am more willing to support the special assessment if management will get us a written statement that they are going to change and do things correctly. Are we going to get an audit down the road? If you tell me in writing, I don't want to hear a promise made verbally. I want it in writing. Here's here's a process we're willing to follow, an audit, correct the financials, get better management, create a written comprehensive business plan. I am more willing to say yes to the special assessment, okay, just my personal opinion. But until you can do those things, and if you don't come with a written statement before the special assessment, I'm likely not to support it. That's all there is to it. Because this is a business, and if you're gonna run a business, you need to run a business like a business, period. And if you don't want it to be a business, then say so, and let's talk about what else we're gonna do with this golf course business. But it's a business, run it like a business, act like a business, provide good management, and provide the necessary information so everybody in this community who are stock shareholders can know what their money is doing. I will not invest my money in the market unless I have this information available to me prior to giving them my money. So all I'm asking for is management to provide us with a statement that they're willing to stand behind that says we're going to do these things before December 7th. I don't want to be, well, I'm going to do these things sometime in the future. No, I want a date, because that is good business. And that's all my position.
Excellent, thank you.
Again, I come back to like I said about earlier, about talk about all your numbers and where it's going, and they provide all this information and stuff. It's good. But what the plan, as I see it, has got to be, what are we going to do, and how are we going to have a steady income?
Correct. Agree with you 100%.
Play. Members and play. That's the only way you're going to have a steady income. If you don't, every time you turn around, they're going to be asking us for more money.
Absolutely.
Some people can afford it, some can't, okay? But steady income is your only way to have a profitable golf course. And 145 members is just not going to cut it. Not even on 18 holes. You won't get it done.
Best. Rocky works too.
I know, but that's all I know you by.
I see. I have a feeling you and I have discussed things on this.
Oh, yes. My name is Bob Bridges, and I would just like to address the gentleman. We are not a private club. 145 members will never run this thing, all right? I'm looking right here, and this is the CSI presentation from when they sold the golf course. In 2017, there were 57,953 rounds. In 2018, 52,338. 2019, 50,791. 2020, 58,219. Of those 58,219, 42,210 were public rounds. So that's what runs the golf course. So you can't really get up there and talk about just the members, because we are not a private club. Our goal is...
Why are we private?
Because,
well, mismanagement, no oversight, Zood, I mean, it's been talked about, Ed actually talked about that, Zood, and I really put a lot of, personally, I think Lee, and that oversight you thing was perfect. I read that, and I shook my head. And then Bob Rademacher did not have any oversight on Lee, and the board didn't have any oversight on the whole thing, so, and that's gone, but we own these courses now. This is different, okay? We didn't, and all the other things that people talk about, and we've talked online and stuff like that, this is different. This is the first time we've owned the course, and the first time a special assessment, other than one to buy it, has been done. And personally, we've done a lot of good stuff. We brought very positively forward. I don't golf, by the way, okay? I don't have no pony in this race. But to spend all the money we've done, and I look at it this way, $275, I look at it as a bridge loan. It's to get us to the point where we can start bringing that type of revenue back. If we don't do it, we can throw it away. And let me finish. And all that money we spent is going to be spent, and then we are going to have to pay whatever you decide to do with those courses. There will be a cost factor to doing that. I mean, it's there. And to be honest with you, the HOA fees, now y'all are going to like me for this. I did a inflationary 4% increase from the beginning to now. We should be at $175 a month. When we came in here 2 years ago, my wife and I shook our head. We went, $105 a month for all that stuff? And we're going like, how in the heck can they be doing that? And we got in, and now we understand stuff is going to start breaking. And because everybody has kept the fees low, oh, don't raise it, you can't raise it. Well, yeah, we're going to be in a little bit of problem. That's HOA fees, we're not talking about the golf course. That's a whole separate entity. The HOA and the LLC, from what I've read and understand, can't commingle. They can run each other, but the funds can't commingle, none of that stuff. So be careful, evaluate your values and all that other stuff that you get from people, including me.
So Bob, it's nice to finally meet you.
Yes.
And
Bob,
well,
here, I just have one thing to say that the LLC has no money, but what they get from the HOA.
And
The
what they
HOA
earn from revenue.
Pardon?
And what they earn from revenue.
The revenue really goes to us, and then they decide how much they get to spend. I mean, they can look at it, oh boy, it is, the LLC is not raking in the money for themselves.
Well, not right now.
hopefully in the future, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
Here, hopefully, right. Yes, sir.
I'm a member resident here also. I don't play golf right now, but I would like to see the golf courses worked out. What I didn't see with this meeting though was who is going to go down and talk to the BOD and say, here's what we came up with. Here's a whole bunch of ideas. Is there a plan for this meeting to turn into something?
One of them was sitting in the back. One of the board members was here today, and he was sitting in the back, and I think he kind of heard everything. And he's not hearing this for the first time as well. But it is
President of the board.
Yeah, Carl.
And I have spoken to members of the board as well about what we talked about here. You're hearing after the fact. I've said the same thing I said to you here regarding what we need to do with the problems we're having. And my position, by the way, is we need to convene individuals into a committee of some kind, including the board, to talk about these issues. We want golfers on there, we want non-golfers, we want financial people, we want project managers, we want the managers, we want a cross-section of everybody, professionals, okay? Because the only way you're going to solve this and get the correct answers that we're asking here is to convene and sit down in honest, sincere form and talk about these things. Not just my position as a pro golfer, my position as an anti-golfer. No, you gotta get enough people. I worked in the industry, and I was in charge of a very large division. And I had financial people supporting me, I had project managers supporting me, I had attorneys supporting me, I had maintenance. I had a cross-section of everybody, because I don't know squat. Okay, I know how to keep people in line and get the darn things installed and serviced, but when it comes to putting the business together, I don't know how to do that. Okay, I need all these people around me to help me put it all together and to direct me and tell me how to do it, to get it done. And every time we did something, the guys came back after they left, came back from the field, they sat down to input their information, travel time, costs, expenses, and we tracked it. So there's no reason on earth why we can't, granted, this community is not as big as the dollar-wise, not as big as the money I used to manage, but it's pretty darn close. And there's no reason why we can't follow the same business principles in this community. That's my message to everybody.
And part of the problem we're having with the board right now is Carl took over the presidency when Bob Rademacher resigned, and a number of people have resigned, and Carl has appointed people. So we have Dick Penny, who's a golfer, who's been appointed. We have Jeff Albert, who is the treasurer, who is a golfer. Randy Ward is no longer on the board. He's on the LLC board. He's a golfer. He's an adamant golfer. So we have a board that is heavily biased towards golf. And we have a community that is heavily biased towards non-golfers. We have 2,800 homes, and like this gentleman pointed out, there's 145 members to the golf community out of 2,800 homes. So the problem is, are decisions being made in an objective manner, or are they subjective? Are they very biased? And my feeling is they are biased. What we can do about it, I'm not too sure. A special meeting, we looked into a recall, but we're so close to the election that a recall probably would fail. It would fail because the board has to certify the recall. And what they can do is they can contest it, and arbitration won't look at it if it's within 90 days of an election. So, we're between a rock and a hard place. All we can do is make our voices heard and hope somewhere along the line we strike a nerve.
So my question, Ed and others, because I don't know, the meeting that is on the 10th is the board voting on this, and it said today that the public, the residents are, more than welcome to attend. So my question is that the place or the opportunity to bring this up and say, if you want this to pass, are you willing to do the following? If they say no, or they're not, not willing to put it in writing, if they're not willing to do whatever, is that the time and the place for that, or is there another?
I think the way this board works, I think it's better to say no to the assessment and then talk. And then we can decide, right? Because if we say yes to the assessment, there's no guarantees they'll talk. There's no guarantee they will talk and come up with a sincere agreement. But if we say no to the assessment, then maybe they have to talk, maybe they don't. But if they want the money, they have to talk. And if we come to an agreement, then we can quickly agree to give them money.
So I've made this comment before too, that's like a roll of the dice. Are they willing, or would they actually close both courses down if the assessment is voted down? And no, they don't. No, they do not have to close both of them down.
They still have cash flow coming in from the original assessment.
Yes.
Now that's earmarked for debt reduction, but they might say, well, let's keep it going, and hopefully we can get a special assessment to repay the debt. So they are getting cash flows somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 a month from the original assessment. I say between $30,000 and $40,000 because they have been very slow to update the financial accounting. The special assessment accounts on the HOA, many of them have not been updated for a year. In fact, if you look at these financial statements that just came out dated March, the special assessment accounts, Thompson's loan is down versus being up, where we all know it's supposed to be, and the PNC loan isn't even listed. The PNC isn't even listed. That's $386,000 is not on the balance sheet, that liability. So, what the money is, and then Randy Ward comes out with some very interesting numbers, like this 600,000 number that I can't reconcile. I have all the monthly statements and I can't reconcile. So there's a lot of very odd stuff going on, which is why I say maybe the thing to do is say no, here's where it stops. And force them to the table and say, let's talk. Let's agree to something, because we can't go on. And one last thing I'd like to bring up. I know the PNC debt was $386 because in December, they wrote off $386 on the LLC balance sheet. They wrote it off out of equity. And then in January, they wrote off another $334,000 of equity. Our ownership, $706,000 was gone. All the cash advances we made, our equity in the LLC was gone in 2 months.
I wrote a certified letter to the board asking for the economic justification of removing our equity from the shareholders' accounts. Nothing. I asked Carl about it, and he told me he thinks he's read it. So again, you know, I'm sorry, Kathy. So anyway, I think we need to vote no, and then I think we need to talk.
Hey, Ed, you were saying, and Cindy, you were saying that money that was earmarked, that the monthly money that some of us are paying monthly for is earmarked to reduce debt, correct?
According to the latest announcement, the board says there is 1.69 million left of that $15 a month, and that is enough to pay off the
Debt.
existing debt. Yes.
And when it was first established, is that what that money was earmarked? Because in a special assessment, you must be very specific of what you were spending money on.
In the special assessment, $8.55 a month was earmarked to pay off Fustos. $3.23 was earmarked to compensate for losses. $3.22 was earmarked to compensate for capital spending, to add up to $15.
So without breaking our covenants, you said that they could still maintain that 18 holes without breaking the covenants of what that money was supposed to be used for?
Well, 1.5 million. They've gone through that.
Okay.
So, and only.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I see what you're saying. So of that $15, $323 was to compensate for losses. That's $750,000.
Right.
We have given cash advances of about $1.1 million. The cash advances was used for operations. They surpassed that $750,000 by about $400,000. So they have violated the covenants.
Yes, they have.
As for the $322 that was earmarked for the capital spending, they are about at the $750,000 limit.
Are y'all
But yes,
going
they
to have
have.
a meeting? You know how we did it with the Oaks Committee? Are y'all going to have a meeting with the board so you can discuss this one-on-one with them?
So the gentleman asked, what are we going to do after this meeting? We are an ad hoc committee. In other words, you know, we just got together as neighbors to do this, right? And you can tell we are totally in tune. I disagree with him, okay? And I don't mean that in a bad way. My personal opinion is I don't want to tell you how to vote. I don't feel it's my place to tell you how to vote. Give you the information, you decide for yourselves, and frankly, we have no power, really, more than you do. You, as individuals, need to decide for yourself how you want this thing to go. And you need to go and call Carl and call everybody and say, hey,
I will tell
this is
y'all
how it
that
is.
I have emailed the board so many times, and they are very, very good. Carl is very good, and so is Dick Penny at returning my emails, and I mean quick. It's like the same day. So if you ever want an answer and you want it in writing, that's the way to do it.
So that's, I mean, it's okay if you want to vote no, that's your business. But again, take that information you saw here and vote the way you feel.
Here's one more question that I would like to put to you. When somebody takes out a financial statement, let's say they want to borrow $10 million, and they say, here's where it's coming from. I'm going to get it from Bank A, Bank B, Bank C. So when they did this proposal, they said we have a $400,000 loan. We have paid some of that back. Do you know it's still at $400,000? Because Maynard is calling it a line of credit, meaning the maximum you can get is $400,000. So every time you pay it down, he lets the LLC bring it back up to $400,000 with no approval. That $400,000 could go for an eternity. From my perspective, if you have a loan of 1.7, 0.4, whatever it is, that's your loan. It doesn't mean, as we pay it down from our special assessment, that you're carte blanche to just run it back up without the approval. And essentially, that is what is going on. That's all I have to say.
There is a sign-up sheet over here. It's basically a name and an email. The group communicates, and we have our ideas, we have our notions. If you would like to be part of the group, or just if you would like to receive communications, be part of the dialogue, if you will, please sign your name and leave your email, and we'd be happy to include you with our activities.
Thank you.
Can I just quickly ask, can the LLC make a loan without any input from us? In other words, should we not pass the thing? Can the LLC, for example, take another private loan from a private individual?
Well, they went and took one from PNC.
Well, I mean, are they authorized to make a loan on their own that then transfers to us?
I have a copy of the Exude's contract, and Exude's contract allowed them to get credit as long as they notified John Russell. Okay, so that's how that PNC issued. John Russell gave Exude permission and Exude did it. Okay, that was written in the contract. Can they do it now? I would suggest that since we're managing it in-house, that whoever is chairman, whoever is treasurer, would have a very difficult time without trying to get trade credit without getting approval from the board. I would suggest that.
One other thing, your suggestion can be brought up at the meeting next week.
Absolutely.
And if you're forceful enough, you can actually, by statute, by Florida statute, advance the meeting. No, I'm not kidding. I'm serious.
It's an interesting thought. Yeah.
You can actually, in other words, say, look, there's enough of us that, whatever your opinion is, you want it or you don't want it. And particularly, you could say to the board, look, there's enough of us that you have to be concerned that this isn't going to pass. And here's what we want. And add that as an aside. So you can't change the special assessment. You can't go in there now and say, we want this, this, and this, and change it. Because all your proxy voters aren't included. You see what I mean? You'd have to mail it to everybody. But what you could do is present your demands and add that as a prerequisite for approving the thing. And if they say, well, we have to take that in consideration, well then forward the meeting. You are allowed by Florida statute, in any meeting actually, but a special one especially, to say, okay, we'll adjourn and we'll reconvene tomorrow. And we'll make a decision. We'll come back to you. So look into that. It's right in your Florida statute, section 720.
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Yep.
Yeah, present your thing. Say, look, but you can't change the actual special assessment.
Right.
But you can put your demands in there.
Good point. I'll take a look. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Okay, so we're winding down here. There's still somebody who would like, ma'am, if you'd like to speak.
I appreciate all the information that I've learned today. And I'm just wondering how the board and the HOA gets away with non-transparency for so long.
Well, that's a great question. Part of it's apathy, part of it that we let them do it. I've been going to the meetings and I've been more or less a thorn in their side, trying to get information. And, slowly but surely it comes out. But yeah, there's still a lot that needs to be done. It's up to us. And, and they also have this mentality that if you don't ask, they're not going to tell. And so it's really up to us to ask. We have to be involved. And, I think also, too, that's how they got away with so much for so long. Because Lee held his cards very close to his vest. And a lot of this didn't come out until Lee left position as manager in July, and then suddenly the financial statements became available because Lee didn't let you go see them. It was our right to see them, but he put in all sorts of obstacles. I mean, I've asked for him and he said no. He said no. I had to sue him. If I wanted any information from Lee, I had to sue him. So that's the barriers that I came across. And when Lee left, information became available, and things have been they've been getting better. But yes, the board is very, very tight-lipped, and it shouldn't be that way. We need to ask. We need to
Since we're the sole member of the LLC, by their bylaws, we are the sole member, the HOA is.
We own the
That's
LLC.
exactly right. Why can't we request to see their books? You're saying you got that anonymous phone call saying there are no books. Well, let's request them.
We have.
And they won't give them to you.
Well, I don't think there's been, a formal request, or,
And that's
as
what
they're
we
saying,
need,
they're
a formal
stonewalling. So, yeah, we need a formal request.
And I
We need-
think you do that through Liz up at the HOA office, and you have to fill out some paperwork or something to get that.
Okay. Well, yeah, there is something called an official documents request.
Exactly.
And you have to say specifically what the document you want. So if you want a certain invoice, you have to say that invoice.
Okay.
So you can't just say, I want to see everything because I heard there's no records. You can't do that. So what we have to do is stick to our guns and say we need an audit. We need not a forensic audit. A forensic audit implies that it's dead and we want to know what killed it. That's not what we want. We want an independent third-party audit. And also, with that in mind, keep in mind the 2021 audit that was done. Do you realize the people that audited us did not even step on the property? They audited us, and they took, whenever they had a question, they took management and management's word for it. So what kind of audit is that? They have a question for a number, and what did they do? They call up Carl and said, Carl, where's this number from? Carl told them, and they said, fine. Is that an audit?
No.
Do you know, there was a question asked last night at the meeting of this $200,000. In the presentation we made back in April, we noted that there's $200,000 missing. It's not really missing, okay? They capitalized. The initial capital was $600,000, but they only recognized $400,000 of assets, leaving $200,000 as a question mark. But there was $200,000 in cash, but in the equity there was not $200,000. How did that happen? I have a file that Dick Penny gave me, and on September 9th, 2021, $200,000 was paid to the LLC by the HOA as a cash advance. So I have evidence of that. It just wasn't recorded. I thought that would come out in the audit. The auditors missed it. The auditors missed it. The auditors had the initial capitalization of $635,000 and $435,000 of assets.
Are these the auditors that are down in West Palm Beach?
These are the auditors that are in Boca. It's called Leonardo and Company.
Right, the ones that tried to present at that one meeting?
That's correct. So, we need accountability, we need an audit, we need help. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.